You're listening to the Things Podcast, brought to you by the Things Industries.
With Guy Hackbarth. Welcome to the Things Conference Podcast.
Thank you.
It's great to meet you finally. I think we've been crossing paths quite a bit when you were at Bosch. You're still with Bosch, but I used to be a client of mine. So we've talked a bit about some of the stuff we've done over the years, but you talked about something in your presentation earlier that I found fascinating. You were building IoT solutions before we called them IoT. So the first one was about 25 years ago?
So yeah, when I started Process Software, that was January 1st, 2001. So, and funny enough, our first customer was Bosch Siemens Automobile site. So, but, and this is, I think the core of what my presentation was about. Let's say the software products that we have, right? They exist. So today, the same way they existed in 2004, right? We added a few features here and there, but the core remains the same.
Now, this is interesting because you would think, that's a long time ago.
Exactly.
That's before we had GPRS. So right when we were launching GPRS, that's before we had the BlackBerry.
Right. We
We couldn't even get emails. We had a personal life back then. It wasn't 24/7 email. And you're saying it hasn't actually changed that much over all those years.
Exactly. So in essence, like if you just take the edge software, right? So what you do, you connect devices, typically in RFID pieces, right? So sure, the technology has evolved. You have new protocols or whatever, right? But we support Z-Wave, Zigbee, more Matter, and so on, right? And so the way it is designed is that we are modular, right? So that you can add new protocols if you want, right? But then on top, we abstract devices from their protocols, yeah, so that an app developer that wants to control a light bulb can do it without knowing the specifics of BLE, thinking that way.
What could be interesting. So I want to talk about IoT a bit. And I have a theory and I want to test it with you because I sit on the outside. I look at the industry from the outside. You actually have to go and deliver the stuff, talk to clients about it. I have this theory that I think we've gone beyond a lot of the hype, where it's not just about, IoT, great. And it's sort of almost becoming a little bit more business as usual. It's viewed as a regular technical solution. It's not just this experimental thing. Is that what you're seeing in the market as well?
I would say yes, I see that as well, right? So the way I perceive the market today, right? So for sure more mature, right? I think we are down to a reality level, right? So the billions of devices, everybody knows it takes its time, right? But what I'm also seeing is that a lot of companies approach us because they want to move away from hyperscaler-based IoT platforms for mainly cost purposes, really. And so, for example, our IoT platform is a Java enterprise application we can deploy anywhere, right? And it has one feed fee, right? And that's it. So simplicity, still counts to put it.
Which is funny because if you go back 10 years ago, we made it sound so complex and it really shouldn't have been so complex. And if we would have actually simplified it and make people understand that it is not that difficult to deploy, it's harder to come up with the use cases and then actually figure out how you drive value out of it. But we actually held them back by just making it sound so complicated. And then we had all those battles of the NB-IoT wars versus LoRa versus Sigfox, and we created confusion instead of creating simplicity. But I think we're getting more towards that point right now.
Yeah, probably we do, right? So I think, technology is more mature, right? So I would say as an industry, we know today which use cases work or don't work in falling like this, right? AI is changing the game also now, right? So to improve applications, user experience, and so on, right? So I think, I see with respect to IoT, it may not be so public anymore, but I see a bright future, right? So,
and I think what's important is you mentioned AI there. AI needs data. Sensors collect data. We can give it, maybe we can actually finally use all that data we've been collecting and start learning it to drive data and turning it into intelligence, and allow us to make better decisions and streamline our operations. So we're making good progress. Now, what if I gave you the power to change one thing in the industry that would make it move a lot smoother and people adopt it quicker? What's the one thing that you would get rid of to try and move us forward with IoT?
yeah, I think, the problem is fragmentation, right? So that's, I think, number one problem, right? So you have many different IoT platforms. They all have their,
I saw your slide earlier. Was it 600 plus?
Yeah, it was IoT Analytics made this, right? 2019, right? So I don't know what we are down to now, but it's probably a lot less, right? But still, fragmentation is, probably the biggest hurdle to overcome.
I remember when I used to do presentations and keynotes on IoT, I used to say, I'm like the one guy in IoT who doesn't have his own platform. Because pretty much every other company had their own, and it's like, well, that's not going to get too complicated in the future. But now when you look out, like what industries or verticals or use cases do you think are really going to start driving the adoption in the coming few years?
I wouldn't say there is a specific industry or a specific use case. I think it's the fact that you can basically anything and everything, right? So,
And simply.
and simply, exactly, right? So, you saw you there with it, and I was, really amazed by the easiness of, getting the gateway and this button integrating into our IoT platform. It took us 1 hour and another day for the dashboard and the, let's say, conversational analytics. This is how it should be, right? Yeah.
But if you simplify things, it makes it easier for people to adopt it and get value back on it. But then as an industry, we tend to like to make it complicated because it makes us feel more important that way.
Yeah, politics obviously is, also big issue. Right? So, and this is also part of my presentation, right? There are lots of standards where, the IP is owned by, a large corporate, right? And so it is really only one in control, or sometimes maybe a few, but I think this is the wrong way to do this, right? So I like, if you see this here is about openness, it's not about, specific technology, it's not about a specific IoT platform, right? So it's, the community that counts.
It feels like one giant group hug here. Exactly. Which I think is funny because like even last year when I was there, it was still purely a LoRa event. Yeah. And now you've got like the cellular guys, you've got the Wi-Fi Halo guys coming up from Australia, Bosch coming back into the ecosystem again, which I think is great because the one thing that held back the industry the last couple of years is that they were missing some of the bigger anchors. You had Semtech, but now getting Bosch coming back in here, and let's face it, you have scale, you can really help this ecosystem grow. And that's good for everybody in this room, but also for their customers as well. So anyway, this is your first time at this event.
It's my first time here.
Okay, so what have you been impressed with? You've looked around at all this stuff. I know you've been stuck on your stand and then presenting.
Generally, what I like, and just give me kind of the feeling what we also had at Bosch Connected World, right? It's, you have concrete solutions, concrete devices, concrete use cases, right? So it's not about, PowerPoints, right? So, and I think this is, there are only a few events that's concrete.
And Bosch Connector World is one of the best ones for it as well. So
I did.
Hopefully I'll see it.
Still is. It's happening next year.
We got to tell Dirk to invite me back. I presented in, I think, 2019 and 2020, but so tell Dirk I'd like a slot. Just put me in anyway. Like, I need 5G and smart cities there. I'm happy to do whatever he wants.
That's all.
Excellent. Kai, thank you so much for taking time. I'm going to let you go back there because it's almost time for a drink. But you got to celebrate a little bit. It's been a long day.
It's all good.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.